News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. President Trump is imposing tariffs on U.S. trading partners worldwide with a minimum 10% tariff on all exporters to the U.S. Dozens of countries with the largest trade imbalances will face even higher rates, including China at 34%, the European Union at 20%, and Vietnam at 46%. The 10% tariffs will take effect after midnight Saturday. The higher duties kick in at 12:01 a.m. on April 9th. Canada and Mexico are not subject to so-called reciprocal tariffs just yet. The U.S. will continue to honor the USMCA exemption for Canada and Mexico for now. As for those other tariffs, President Trump says it's not the country's fault.
I don't blame these other countries at all for this calamity. I blame former presidents and past leaders who weren't doing their job. They let it happen.
Trump declared a national emergency tied to the U.S. trade deficit, allowing him to use unilateral authority to impose the tariffs, which could raise the cost of trillions of dollars in goods shipped annually to the U.S. Lawrence Summers, former U.S. Treasury Secretary and Wall Street Week contributor, tells Bloomberg TV that now we just wait to see how the rest of the world responds.
That there's going to be retaliation, perhaps retaliation in tariff forms, perhaps retaliation in terms of discrimination against other customers.
Former Treasury Secretary and Wall Street Week contributor Lawrence Summers. Futures jumped in response to the Trump statement that set a 10% tariff rate for all countries worldwide, and then those futures sunk. As the president made it clear the 10% is just a baseline, and then word that Canada and Mexico are exempt, well, at least for now, that contributed to some relief. Checking those futures for you right now, the S&P futures right now are 0.6% higher. NASDAQ futures up by 0.8%. Dow futures up about 0.6%. Now, ahead of President Trump's announcement on tariffs, Wall Street indexes fell early and then recovered late. The Dow ended up 235. NASDAQ rose 151. The S&P added 38. Other stories we are watching for you. Boeing making sweeping changes to reduce the number of deficits in its production line, which last year resulted in in-flight incidents and forced groundings. In testimony before a Senate committee today, Boeing CEO Kelly Ortberg said the company has stepped up new inspections in its factories and at a key supplier.
The Alaska door accident was a cathartic moment for all of us to step back and look at how could this happen within the safety management system, and we found significant gaps. Those gaps are all a part of our safety and quality plan to improve the overall performance.
It is Ortberg's first appearance before lawmakers since taking the helm last August. His predecessor faced blistering questions last year over Boeing's safety culture. A federal judge dismissed corruption charges against New York City Mayor Eric Adams, bringing a permanent end to that case. Later, Adams repeated his claim that the case should never have been tried. He says now the city has to move forward.
This case should have never been brought, and I did nothing wrong. I'm now happy that our city can finally close the book on this and focus solely on the future of our great city.
Adams says he will run for a second term. His fundraising has fallen off dramatically since his indictment. Newsmax shares shed more than 3/4 of their value after a 2-day surge, fueled in part by retail traders, briefly made it larger than Fox Corp. The stock slumped 77% in one day, wiping out about $23 billion in market value. Politico reports Donald Trump is telling members of his inner circle that advisor Elon Musk will be leaving soon. Bloomberg Intelligence senior analyst Nathan Dean says it doesn't mean Doge is going away.
Probably for the next year, if not a little bit longer, until they really get to the point where they are streamlined and they feel that they've adequately right-sized those agencies.
Bloomberg's Nathan Dean explains the big-ticket agencies like Medicare and Medicaid are under Congress's purview, and Doge can't do anything about them. Contractor and defense stocks jumped at the news. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called the report, quote, garbage, posting on X that Musk will leave public service when his work with Doge is complete. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg.